Hi, my name is Erin Carl, and I own a company called Analytical Grammar. I spend my day coming up with curriculum and selling it to people who would like to teach and learn grammar, mechanics, punctuation, and usage. Why do we diagram? It's a question I get quite a bit because we do use classical sentence diagramming in all of our grammar curriculum. Let me first talk about what diagramming is. It was invented in the 1800s by a couple of professors who were looking for a way to make teaching grammar easier. Now, the way the human brain works, if something is complicated, we like drawing pictures of it. If we are going to build a house, we put it all out in a floor plan. If an engineer is working on something, he's going to draw out a schematic. It's just the way our brains think. So diagramming was invented as a teaching tool. It's not this really cool thing to know how to do. Very few people, I'm one of them, are paid to diagram sentences. It's not a skill you'll necessarily be using as an adult. However, if you want to be able to use the English language correctly, if you want to know where your commas go, if you want to know whether to say who or whom, if you want to have your usage and your mechanics be flawless, well, then you need to know advanced grammar. That means things like gerunds, participles, noun clauses, infinitives, things like that. Now, if you're only going to teach basic grammar, parts of speech, parts of a sentence, the sentence patterns, you really don't need diagrams to do that. Those grammatical ideas are simple enough to be able to teach without breaking it apart into pictures. However, if you do plan to teach advanced grammar, it's exponentially more difficult to do it if you can't just simply draw a picture of how the words are working together in a sentence. Sentences get too complex. Single words do a certain job within a group of words, but then that group of words is doing a different job in the whole sentence. It's just too confusing. So if you can draw it out, it's a much easier way of teaching. Now, in analytical grammar, toward the end of our grammar units, we actually sort of wean our students off the diagrams. Because what I want to have happen is for those diagrams to happen up here. But that will never happen if we don't use them to begin with. Just like a master architect can visualize the perfect house, or a master mechanic can go and take apart a complex engine without looking at schematics of it, a grammarian who knows her stuff can do so in her head. And a lot of times, if I'm looking at a sentence and trying to figure something out, I can diagram it in my head without even having to take pencil and paper. So what I think is important for people to understand is that diagramming is the means to an end. It's not an end in and of itself. I would say, though, that if you are deciding how you would like to either learn or teach grammar, ask yourself what benefit you get by just learning parts of speech and basic sentence patterns. It's kind of an interesting question, right? Grammar is very much like math. Okay? It's just with words. It's a system about the way our language works together. Now, if we stopped with math at, say, learning our numbers and then basic addition and subtraction, that wouldn't really get us very much in the grand scheme of things, right? There's a lot about our world that we wouldn't understand. Well, the same thing goes with English grammar. If you only learn the parts of speech and basic sentence patterns and never go on to advanced grammar, I would argue that you've sort of wasted your time, and you'd probably have been better off to just not cover grammar at all, which is an option. However, if you want to be able to have a writer, or you want to be a writer who knows that you're putting a comma there because you know the rule, instead of I pause, therefore I comma. You see, when I teach advanced grammar to my students, then I can go back and say, you know what? When you see an introductory adverb clause, you have to put a comma after it. And my students go, okay, because they know what an introductory adverb clause is. And if we're looking at a very complex sentence, the easiest way to deconstruct it is to take it apart in a sentence diagram. I hope that helps. If you have any further questions, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks.